And April, you raised another really important point that I kind of want to dig into a little bit more here. We often talk about, and I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about how you go about doing this, and Greg as well. We talk about the importance of working with our supplier partners, right? As we're continuing to grow, and these modalities continue to grow more advanced, right? And the applications continue to grow. We may need more things, or we may need things differently, right? Or we may need a different structure of partnership. We need more capability in a certain area versus another, right? So I'm really curious, how do you work with your partners today, and how do you see this changing, right? In terms of helping to improve, right, quality, scale, or availability of a product or a service, or over time, how do you recommend sort of navigating that? And April, we'll start with you and then jump to Greg.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, there's a lot of things in the gene editing space that we know we're going to need in a couple years or in 5 years.
Okay.
And right now, we won't be able to get them as readily or on demand as we need, or to the quality that we need. So I work constantly with suppliers, and I have a two-pronged approach. So I have a team who works at the tactical level when we actually need supply of something, and we get connected, we figure out how to actually provide what we need at that time. But we have a lot of executive level conversations as well. So we're looking at preferential partnerships, for one, to make sure that from a cost and from a lead time perspective, we can get what we need. That can get it troublesome if you're not quite to a volume of purchasing, that sometimes they expect you to be like buying a certain amount from them or their sister companies and things. But it's worth having the conversation. But the other important thing is to work with each other at the executive level on what's the voice of the industry, what's the voice of the customer, and help each other out there. I've had huge success just talking very transparently with suppliers at the executive level and just saying, hey, I need you to make this sterile. Not now, but soon. And then they're telling me, okay, a year from now, funnily enough, we're now going to introduce sterile, proper sterile filtration and the appropriate graded environment to make this sterile. Because they recognize if I need it, other people need it. And I'm probably not the person they're talking to. But flagging those things up and letting them know like what our demand's going to be, where we're moving, so that they can be prepared, is helpful. And they do it, like they do respond. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So communicating that transparency, understanding as well that if you're hearing it from one, you're probably going to hear it from others, right? You're not the only one working in this modality, and moving forward, there will be more. You're setting the stage, April.
Like, do you want to participate in the voice of the customer? Like, yes. Definitely.
So step one, when a supplier offers that, right? Best practice number one.
All the way up through the levels. If I latch on to some technology that I think we need, I'm talking to my CEO, he's talking to their CTO. Like, we need to get connected. It's kind of like a CEO, executive level, tactical level. Like, all three things need to be happening.
Yes, it's really building that relationship right at the executive level, having that visibility. Greg, what do you have to add?
Well, I want a fantastic answer, April, and I love that both of you are using the term partnership rather than just supplier or vendor, because maybe the biggest mistake that folks make is too early turning this into just a strict sourcing procurement activity when we're talking, especially about custom raw materials, and really, as April said, that level of transparency, we have to work with them on giving them some insight into what our demand is going to be, how it's going to grow, and how that material really is performing in our process. And I know those are difficult conversations because we want to hold close to us, what, as the sponsor of what our future forecasts are and what our critical material attributes are, but I really think that to do this right, it has to be done in a partnership mentality like that. At least until a material is fully commoditized, which, as we said, was a pretty small handful of the mRNA raw materials.
I think if the suppliers back up more than when you start saying, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, and then all of a sudden you're working with you were with the A team, but now you're with the D team, and you can't do your stuff.
So I really like this emphasis on transparency. April, I really like the point. If they're asking for customer feedback, give it, right? Like be first in line to be willing to talk through what you need. And I think, you know, the concept of transparency is a tricky one in this space, but it is, again, something that I've been hearing more and more about throughout the advanced therapy space, especially as it relates to partnership, is really letting your partners in, right? And really trying to open up your processes to some extent, right? So that your partners also understand, right, what you're working with, what you're trying to do, and how their product or their supplies are helping you do that, right? And the role that they can play as a partner in that.